Just stop and think for a second about energy. It powers literally everything, doesn't it? The
Yeah.
phone in your hand, the lights, the global supply chains, everything.
It really is the invisible engine.
Yeah.
Absolutely fundamental.
Right. And it's not just about keeping the lights on. It's this massive global economic force.
Yeah.
The scale, financially speaking, is huge. And the growth, well, the projections are pretty mind-blowing.
Mm-hmm.
So today, that's what we're doing, a deep dive into sales revenue trends in the global energy market. We want to unpack where it's been, where it is now, and where it's headed by 2033.
Okay.
And we're using this really comprehensive report from Cognitive Market Research. It covers the whole spectrum: fossil fuels, renewables, nuclear, you name it. Gives us a solid look at the market's financial pulse.
And it's important to understand what we mean by the global energy market, right?
Right.
It's just the whole chain, producing it, moving it, consuming it.
Exactly.
All the different sources, fossil fuels, renewables, nuclear, other alternatives too. It's just critical. It underpins, economic growth, industry, just our daily lives. And a really big driver, which the report flags clearly, is this global shift happening towards sustainable energy. That's pushing a lot of the growth and the diversification we're seeing.
Okay, let's put some numbers on that right away, just to set the scale. Back in 2021, the market pulled in, $12,229.75 billion in revenue.
A huge number already.
Right, but then by 2025, it jumped significantly up to $1,990.92 billion. Almost $2 trillion.
Oh.
And here's the kicker. The projection for 2033.
Mm-hmm.
Over $5,218 billion. $5.2 trillion.
That's incredible.
It's nearly quadrupling the revenue from 2021. I mean, what does that kind of exponential growth tell us about energy's role, maybe how it's changing?
Well, that massive jump says a few things. First, global energy demand isn't just rising, it's fundamentally changing.
Okay.
While older sources are still in the mix, a lot of that future growth, especially looking out to 2033, comes from huge investments in renewables, solar, wind, the whole infrastructure.
So it's the green transition driving a big chunk of it.
Exactly. It reflects a world needing more energy, population growth, economic development, but also actively trying to change how it gets that energy. It's going to be a pivotal sector this decade.
That makes sense. So with those huge global numbers as a backdrop, let's break it down. How does that growth spread out across different regions, different countries? It must paint quite a varied picture.
Oh, absolutely. The regional stories are fascinating.
Let's start with North America. The report shows its market growing from about $360 billion in 2021 to a projected $1.45 trillion by 2033.
A massive increase there, too.
Within that, the U.S. is obviously dominant, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's driving that specifically and the overall near quadrupling for the continent?
Right. The U.S. is definitely the heavyweight. It's projected to cross the $1 trillion mark on its own by 2033.
$1 trillion.
Yeah. And the growth drivers are, well, several things. Strong industrial base, population growth, sure, and also really significant investment, both in traditional energy and increasingly in renewables, big solar farms, wind projects. And you see Canada and Mexico also showing really strong growth percentages. It points to a broader continental expansion, cross-border energy trade, domestic projects. It's an interconnected system.
Got it. Okay, let's hop across the Atlantic. Europe also set for big expansion from around $307 billion in 2021 to over $1.22 trillion by 2033.
Very similar scale of growth to North America, interestingly.
Which markets in Europe are really standing out? And I guess given their climate goals, are the drivers a bit different there?
Europe's a really interesting case. Like you said, you've got the big economies, Germany, France, the UK, all projected to see revenues nearly quadruple. But the drivers here are heavily shaped by those aggressive decarbonization targets. Germany, for example, is pushing hard on integrating renewables.
Right.
France is balancing its nuclear power with new investments. The UK is big on offshore wind. And it's not just the giants. Italy, Spain, Switzerland, Sweden, they're all making significant moves too. So this growth isn't just meeting current needs. It's fundamentally about modernizing grids, investing in smart tech, and shifting away from fossil fuels, often with a big push from government policies and private investment.
So strong growth across Europe, but with a very clear green thread running through it. How does that stack up against the region that's actually projected to become the largest energy market, Asia-Pacific?
Ah, yes, Asia-Pacific. The numbers there are huge.
Yeah, soaring from under $400 billion in 2021 to over $1.8 trillion by 2033. China's leading, naturally, but what jumped out at me was India's growth trajectory. It looks explosive.
You're absolutely right to flag India. While China's market size is enormous forecast to hit over $500 billion, India's rate of growth is exceptional.
No exception.
We're talking from about $63.5 billion in 2021 to over $350 billion by 2033.
Wow, it's more than a five-fold increase. What's behind that surge?
The report points to a few key things: a rapidly growing middle class needing more energy, massive infrastructure spending, and a big push for rural electrification. It's a combination of rocketing demand and a major, though complex, energy transition effort.
Okay, that makes sense. Demand plus transition.
Exactly. And Japan is also a major player there, expected to hit over $320 billion, focusing a lot on efficiency and diversifying its energy sources.
So with Asia Pacific becoming the largest market overall, what does that mean globally?
It means a significant shift. Global energy supply chains, investment flows, tech innovation, they'll increasingly focus on the needs and opportunities in that region. Global energy policy and market influence will likely tilt more towards Asia Pacific.
A real gravity shift in the energy world. And it's not just China, India, and Japan, right?
Hmm.
Other markets there are growing fast too.
Definitely. South Korea, for instance, is projected to quadruple its market that speaks to its industrial power. Australia is looking at over $165 billion, leveraging its renewable potential alongside traditional strengths. And Singapore and Taiwan also show really significant expansion. It's broad-based growth.
Okay, let's pivot to South America. We see growth there from about $83 billion in 2021 to nearly $390 billion by 2033. Brazil's leading the pack.
Brazil's the regional giant, projected around $155 billion by 2033.
What's the story in South America's similar drivers?
It's largely driven by, well, increasing industrial activity, urbanization, and leveraging their natural resources. Brazil has huge hydropower, expanding oil and gas, but also investing in things like bioenergy.
Right.
And countries like Argentina and Colombia are also seeing substantial growth. Often it's tied to expanding energy access and supporting economic development, though, infrastructure gaps and sometimes political stability can be challenges there.
Understood. How about the Middle East? Expanding from roughly $44 billion to over $208 billion by 2033. We think of fossil fuels, but is diversification happening?
Absolutely. That's a key theme the report highlights. While oil and gas are still central, there's a definite push to diversify, often driven by these big national development plans.
Like Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030.
Exactly. They're making huge investments in solar, looking at green hydrogen. The UAE is doing similar things with renewables and even nuclear.
Interesting.
And others like Turkey, Egypt, Qatar, they're also expanding not just via exports, but building up domestic capacity, exploring alternatives to meet their own fast-growing demand. It's strategic, looking beyond just hydrocarbons.
Future-proofing their economies. Makes sense. Okay, finally, Africa. Projected growth from about $34 billion in 2021 to over $135 billion by 2033. Nigeria and South Africa are the big players there.
Yes, those two economies dominate the current figures.
What's the energy story in Africa? What challenges and opportunities does the report highlight?
Africa's growth is really about tapping into immense potential. Electrification needs are huge. Industrialization is growing. Nigeria and South Africa lead due to population size and resources.
But there are challenges.
Definitely. Energy access, especially in remote areas, is a major hurdle, and the need for infrastructure investment is just massive.
Right.
But the opportunity is also huge. They can potentially leapfrog older tech, go straight to decentralized renewables, especially solar, which has vast potential across the continent. So the growth reflects meeting basic needs, but also increasingly adopting cleaner tech, often with international support.
So it's clear the headline is growth everywhere, but the reasons why and the underlying dynamics are really different region by region.
Absolutely. Very diverse stories.
If you had to pull out maybe one or two big themes that explain why some regions are just exploding versus others showing more steady growth, what would they be?
I'd say one key theme is the link between where a region is in its economic development and the speed of its energy transition.
Okay, explain that a bit.
Well, regions with rapidly industrializing economies, growing populations, especially in Asia Pacific, they're just seeing explosive demand growth. It's a mix of needing more traditional energy and building out massive amounts of new renewable capacity.
Got it. And the more mature markets?
In places like North America and Europe, growth is still really strong, but maybe more weighted towards modernizing existing systems, upgrading grids, and that deliberate green transition, Less about sheer volume increase, more about transformation.
Makes sense. Are there any potential roadblocks or challenges mentioned in the report that could slow things down, especially for those emerging markets growing so fast?
Oh, sure. The report does mention the sheer amount of capital needed for this transformation. That's a big one. Also, the technical challenges of integrating lots of intermittent renewables like solar and wind into the grid.
Right. Managing supply and demand.
Exactly. And of course, geopolitical factors around energy supply, security, especially for countries relying heavily on imports. These are significant hurdles, definitely. But the underlying growth trend still seems incredibly strong.
Okay, so wrapping this up, the main takeaway seems pretty clear. The global energy market isn't just ticking upwards, it's undergoing this massive, multi-trillion-dollar transformation.
That's the core message.
An unprecedented revenue surge is expected over the next decade, driven by development, population, and this big global pivot towards sustainable energy.
Precisely. And these numbers, they aren't just numbers on a page. They really represent a fundamental change in how the world generates, moves, and uses energy.
Yeah.
It highlights that ongoing massive shift to cleaner sources and just reinforces how absolutely essential energy is for economies, industries, and, well, billions of individual lives every day.
So here's something for you, the listener, to think about. With these huge projected revenue shifts across the global energy market, how might this change the balance of economic power around the world? How could it spur innovation in new energy tech? And ultimately, how might it affect your daily life, the energy you rely on, in the coming years?
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're plunging into something that, well, it doesn't just impact our lives, it really shapes the future of nations, of economies, this huge change in the global energy market. And this deep dive, it's custom made for you. We're pulling directly from your sources to get you the most important insights, maybe some surprising facts too. Our mission, simple, really, to give you a super efficient shortcut just to get you properly well informed on this critical subject.
And it really is a critical subject right now, a fascinating moment. The materials we looked at, they show this really complex interplay of forces. It's dynamic. We're looking at core drivers like rising global energy demand, which is just relentless. Then there's groundbreaking tech advancements, really rewriting the rules. And of course, big geopolitical shifts, creating ripples everywhere. So today we'll help you understand not just what's happening, but crucially, why it matters. Get that broader context.
Okay, let's unpack this then. When we talk about a monumental shift in energy, what's really like the engine behind it all? Is it one main thing or a mix?
It's definitely a mix. A powerful cocktail, you could say, of three primary forces working together. First, and maybe the most fundamental, is that surging global energy demand. It's huge. We're seeing faster urbanization, industrialization, population growth, especially in emerging economies, think Asia, Africa. As these nations build up electrified services, their need for energy just, well, it skyrockets.
Right, more development needs more power.
Exactly. But it's not just there. Even in, developed economies, think about the rapid take-up of electric vehicles, all the digital tech, data centers. It's all pushing electricity consumption higher and higher. It's a pull from basically every corner of the globe.
Okay, so more people, more progress, more power needed. That demand picture is crystal clear. But demand on its own doesn't completely reshape a market like this, does it? What else is causing such a seismic shift?
No, you're absolutely right. Demand is just part of it. The second huge driver is the, frankly, incredible technological advancements we're seeing, especially in renewables. Solar and wind power costs have just plummeted. I mean, it's often cheaper now to build new solar than even a new coal plant in many areas.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, think of it like your smartphone getting cheaper and way more powerful every couple of years. It's that kind of disruption hitting the energy sector. And this isn't just about economics. It changes how nations plan their entire energy future. It shifts the whole calculation from if we transition to how fast. And that puts immense pressure on the traditional energy players to, adapt or risk getting left behind.
That really is profound, moving from maybe a moral argument to a straight-up economic one. Okay, and the third driver you mentioned was geopolitics. How's that factoring in, especially with everything going on now?
Wow. Geopolitics.
Yeah.
It's not just causing price swings anymore, though it certainly does that.
Yep.
It's fundamentally rewriting the global energy map. The sources make that very clear. Look at the Russia-Ukraine conflict. It didn't just cause a gas price spike, right? It forced Europe into this massive accelerated pivot away from Russian energy. That meant speeding up renewables, finding new suppliers, redrawing energy alliances that had stood for decades.
A huge scramble,
A huge scramble. And similarly, you have OPEC plus decisions on oil production. That group of major oil exporters plus their allies. Their choices send immediate shockwaves through markets. All this volatility, this uncertainty, it's pushing countries hard to diversify their energy sources. They're seeing energy independence now not just as like an economic nice to have, but as critical national security, sovereignty even.
Okay, so we've got the big forces pushing for change, demand, tech, geopolitics. But, changing something this massive, it's never easy. What are the big hurdles, the roadblocks slowing this transition down?
Absolutely. It's definitely not smooth sailing. Despite all the momentum, there are significant challenges. A major one is intermittency with renewables. I mean, solar power needs sun, wind power needs wind. Both depend on the weather, time of day.
Right, you can't just flip a switch whenever you want.
Exactly. Imagine trying to power a major city when the wind just dies down for 2 days. That's the core challenge. So to keep the lights on reliably, nations have to invest and invest heavily in energy storage, think massive batteries, and seriously upgrade their grids to be more resilient, more flexible. And these aren't small tweaks. They require huge amounts of capital, complex engineering, long-term planning.
Sounds like a massive infrastructure puzzle to solve. What other snags are there?
Well, another major hurdle is just the sheer scale of the upfront costs. Transitioning to a genuinely low-carbon system is expensive. We're talking huge financial outlays for new infrastructure, things like green hydrogen plants, cutting-edge carbon capture facilities, sophisticated smart grids to manage energy flow differently.
Big ticket items?
Very big ticket. And then there's the persistent problem of regulatory and political uncertainty. It really gums up the works. You see subsidies for new projects fluctuating, permitting processes getting delayed for ages. This kind of uncertainty, it really discourages the private investment you need. It stretches out project timelines, sometimes for years. It's just a massive disincentive for companies looking to make those big bets.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, despite these pretty serious challenges, our research still points to this, like undeniable acceleration, things are speeding up. What are the key trends pushing the evolution forward right now?
Oh, absolutely. There's a powerful counter-momentum. The global energy transition is advancing and fast on several fronts. You've got governments all over the world setting ambitious net zero targets, and corporations. They're genuinely revamping their energy strategies. It's not just PR anymore. They have to meet tough ESG standards, environmental, social, governance. That means cutting carbon, ensuring ethical supply chains. It changes how they operate.
So it's becoming embedded in how business is done.
Exactly. And what's really telling is that renewables, especially solar and wind, they now dominate new capacity additions globally. That's where the new power is coming from. And battery storage is growing really fast alongside it to help manage that intermittency we talked about, stabilizing the grid. It feeds itself, creating a positive cycle.
Okay, that's a huge shift in where the new energy is actually coming from. What else is gaining speed across different sectors?
Well, we're also seeing this massive rise of electrification everywhere. Just think about it. The explosion of electric vehicles on the roads, the spread of smart meters in homes helping manage energy use, AI systems optimizing power consumption for whole buildings or industrial sites.
Right, electricity is becoming central to more and more things.
Precisely. And this intensification of electricity demand, it just highlights how urgently we need grid modernization, making our power networks smarter, stronger, more flexible. And alongside that, you have these really exciting emerging clean technologies bubbling up. Green hydrogen, for instance, it looks really promising as a clean fuel for heavy industry, long-haul transport sectors that are notoriously tough to decarbonize. And carbon capture and storage, CCS technologies, they're also gaining traction. The idea is to grab emissions from those hard-to-abate sectors before they hit the atmosphere.
It really is this complex dance, isn't it? Innovation, policy, market forces, all interacting. So, who are the main players navigating all this, the big energy companies? What does it mean for them on the ground?
Yeah, the sources show the leading energy companies are right in the thick of it. They're adapting through pretty significant strategic investments, sometimes bold innovation. It's a high-stakes game of transformation for them. You see the traditional oil and gas giants, names like Shell, BP, Exxon. They're investing heavily now in renewables, in green hydrogen, carbon capture projects. They have to diversify.
They're hedging their bets, essentially.
You could say that. And at the same time, you have national oil companies or major players in specific countries. Think India's SR Oil, ONGC, Oil India, Hindustan Petroleum, Fart Petroleum, Gas Authority, Tata Petrodyne, Reliance Petroleum, or China's Sinopec, Russia's Gazprom. They're all trying to balance their huge existing fossil fuel operations with strategic moves into things like solar, battery tech, or perhaps new natural gas infrastructure as a transition fuel. Their core challenge really is figuring out how to stay competitive, stay profitable in a world that's clearly decarbonizing fast, all while juggling digital transformation and significant geopolitical risks. It's incredibly complex for them.
Wow, what an incredible scope of transformation we've covered. From that surging demand and game-changing tech through to geopolitical shocks. The global energy market is just in this constant state of rapid flux, facing massive challenges, yes, but also showing this incredible pace of innovation and adaptation.
Precisely. And understanding these dynamics, it isn't just for, energy sector insiders or policymakers. It's really for you, the curious learner, because these shifts, they're going to impact everything. Local economies, global politics, how we live, how we travel, how our societies are powered day to day is fundamental. So maybe a final thought to leave you with. As the world keeps electrifying, as it diversifies its energy sources away from the old models, what new forms of energy interdependence or maybe even new kinds of independence will emerge on the global stage? And how might that fundamentally reshape the future, the power, the relationships between nations? Something to ponder.